Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Hello, everyone, and happy June. Welcome to another episode in the People in Fundraising weekly social impact podcast. And today I'm really excited to welcome a fellow prospect management research veteran, Carolyn Vasquez, to People in Fundraising. And Carolyn, you're joining us from somewhere special, and you're in that location for a really exciting opportunity. So welcome to People in Fundraising, and just introduce yourself as you'd like.
Thank you so much, Tim. This is very exciting. So I'm the Director of Development Strategy and Prospect Management at Holy Name Medical Center Foundation in New Jersey. This is a very exciting opportunity for me. Thank you for creating the space for having this thoughtful and meaningful conversation. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thank you for saying yes to being a guest. There's a lot of interesting content that you have generated on LinkedIn, as well as your professional work and your work with Armando Zumaya's Somos El Poder, which is what's bringing you to where you're joining us today. So I'm really delighted to have you as a guest and looking forward to learning about your career. So Carolyn, if you could first please take a few moments and tell us how you entered the social impact fundraising profession.
Yeah, so Tim, it pretty much happened organically for me. I didn't really set out thinking I was going to end up in fundraising like many of us. It kind of happened as I got deeper into nonprofit work and started getting curious about fundraising in general. I started off in the fundraising industry at the American University in Cairo, Egypt, to be specific,
Wow.
where I pursued graduate studies for international human rights law. And once I finished my degree there, I worked for the institution in the advancement side of fundraising. I was a writer interviewing students and academics who were recipients of scholarships and research funding from donors throughout the Middle East region and in the North America region. So it really opened up my eyes to the philanthropy world and the impact, transformative impact it was making in so many different communities and in students who, if it wasn't for attending that institution, they wouldn't have had and higher ed education. So yeah, it kind of like where I got started off in the fundraising world. And then I found myself really drawn to the strategy side of it, just understanding donors, relationships, and what motivates giving overall. What stuck with me is that fundraising isn't just about money, and I don't see it as just a transactional approach to it. I think it's really about alignment and connecting people's values to your organization's mission. That's how I choose to see it every single day. So in my current role as the Director of Development Strategy and Prospect Management at Holy Name, I get to support my team with helping them understand how to move their mission forward and connecting them to individuals who want to make a difference in New Jersey, where it's currently based. So yeah, I'd say I grew into it more than I chose it through curiosity and realizing I like being part of the bigger impact behind the scenes.
That's wonderful. I didn't know that it all began in Egypt with international law. And I also appreciate, Carolyn, how you started off describing it was an organic evolution for your career, because oftentimes, and I fall victim to this too, I say I fell into prospect research or I fell into development. And I think it's just a kind of a simple way to tell an oftentimes not very linear story. So hats off to you for saying organically. I just picked up on that, and that was really good. How long have you been at Holy Name, please?
For about 3 years this year,
Okay.
3 years to be exact, yeah.
Oh, great. Excellent. So in addition to your role at Holy Name, Carolyn, you do volunteer pro bono work with Somos El Poder. Can you first please describe that firm and what your role there is?
Yeah, so Somos El Poder, for those that aren't familiar with it, it is the only Latinx non-fundraising institute in the country. It was founded by Armando Zumaya, who has been a very critical voice in the fundraising space because he has been pushing equity conversations in the nonprofit space, making sure Latino professionals are seen, heard, and supported through various ways. This organization has been very meaningful to me over the years because it's centered around empowering voices that aren't being heard or represented in the fundraising industry,
Mm.
even by other fundraising professional development organizations. And it's why I continue being a volunteer with them. I don't see myself not being a part of Somos El Poder.
Mm.
I think that my volunteer role really connects to the organization's mission in a different way than my everyday job or any previous jobs that I've had in the fundraising world. It lets me contribute to the broader ecosystem of fundraising, which is why I love it. Whether that's supporting research, speaking to small organizations that have a small shop of major gift program, or helping them strengthen their prospect pipeline development. I think that for me, it's all about supporting the next generation of Latinos in this space, something that I think more fundraising professional organizations should be doing, and it should be spoken about more. So speaking about why I'm not in New Jersey right now, I'm actually in Rhode Island because for the next 2 days, I'll be supporting Armando and another board member, Pedro Rivera, leading a 2-day workshop with Latino-led nonprofits based in Providence, Rhode Island. So I am very, very excited to be doing that. So hopefully you'll hear more about it on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Yes, I'm excited to hear more. And can you tell us, Carolyn, how did you get connected to either Armando or Somos El Poder? How long have you been volunteering for Somos El Poder?
Yeah, so I know in previous years I was always been very proactive about just learning about the fundraising world, immersing myself into learning about best practices, gaining new knowledge. And I learned about Armando through, I'm sure, LinkedIn and a lot of the stories that he posts and articles that he publishes. And I believe that I reached out to him. That's how I learned about him. He
Mhm.
was also very proactive with APRA prior to founding Somos El Poder. And that's how I pretty much connected with him. And once he founded the organization, I volunteered to support him in any way possible. And yeah, it's the rest is history, and it's a role that I don't see myself um, like stopped like to stop doing like in the future with the organization. Yeah.
That's great. And do you typically work with the same um, clients? Are they, or is there an evolving slate of clients that come to Somos El Poder and need some assistance, and then you get assigned to work with?
Yeah, so there are a lot of nonprofits in the US led by Latinos that don't have the fundraising resources and training. And a lot of them, they learn about Somos El Poder. They know that it's an organization that can provide the resources and tools they need to fundraise money because that's one area where they lack the
Mhm.
experience and the knowledge and skill set. Unfortunately, a lot of these individuals, they have these executive roles and don't know where to start in fundraising, or they don't know what is prospect research or prospect management. They
Yeah.
don't have a database. They don't know about best practices, period. So Somos El Poder takes the initiative to learn about their organization, train them with the skills that they need. And I support Somos by speaking to these nonprofits about prospect research. Why is prospect research essential in fundraising? For me, it's the bread and butter of fundraising. I always describe it that way. So yeah, that's pretty much a lot of the support that I provide, training with prospect research, informing them what are the free tools that they can have access to, because prospect research, let's be honest, it's expensive.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's very important to also just be a mentor to these young professionals that are very keen about gaining the skills that they need to grow the organization's mission.
Yeah, that is critical work, and I applaud you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there is, I think there may be some symmetry between your work with Somos El Poder and our next question, which is based on an article that you wrote for LinkedIn. And if I can first share my screen, Carolyn, I read it, and this was a period of time where I was starting to develop my podcast goal, which is to interview and post these conversations for the next 52 consecutive weeks with nonprofit leaders of color. And so I read the article and I'm like, okay, like we both work in prospect management. The article
Yeah.
is fascinating. I want to make sure that I can help to amplify what you're writing about. So I first want to share the article. And you wrote this about 4 months ago. And people can find this on Carolyn Vasquez's LinkedIn bio, if that's okay for me to say.
Yes, of course.
Elizabeth. Um, and so I would love to share the link to this when your interview goes live as well. Um, and I'm just curious, there's a lot of great content pieces in this article going back in time to your career, but you also talk about intentionally carrying your Latina visibility. You mention and describe leadership paths, how to
Yeah.
define leadership, authentic relationships. I think, lots of really interesting points in this article. I first would like to know, Carolyn, what was the catalyst, the motivation to write this article, and how did you go about kind of getting to the themes you wanted to share?
Yeah, so I think this article, it came from a mix of reflection and honestly just some frustration in a good way. I think the question that I was asked the reason why I wrote this article for those listening is because I was asked a question when I was returning home to New York from living abroad. And I was asked, why do I want to follow a career in a nonprofit world? That question just simply stayed with me to this day. Um, because it reflected a broader perception that nonprofit work is somehow less ambitious, less successful, and less rewarding. And that's not true than compared to the private sector. I think that as I have been reflecting in my career since I already have about 10 years, I think that, especially as a Latina in fundraising, I wanted to make a point with changing the narrative that about this stigma that nonprofit work seems to be less. I think that this article was really my way of saying that success doesn't have one definition. For some people, it's profit, it's making a profit. For others, is about influence or status or titles. For me, success has always been about supporting my community, creating opportunities for others, providing service, creating an impact. I think that I also wanted to use this opportunity to talk about representation. As a Latina in the fundraising industry, um, we are very much underrepresented. And again, not many professional fundraising organizations have spoken about it enough or even written about it. And I wanted to be very intentional about showing up visibly and expanding how those perceptions are wrong. we do belong in leadership roles. And if we don't speak about it enough, then that's never going to change.
Sure.
But ultimately, the article was about challenging the idea that this is not meaningful work and that professional success and meaningful work is mutually exclusive. And in my experience, they're not.
Yes.
So, yeah, I thought it was very critical to just take this opportunity to speak about how we need to amplify more voices in the fundraising industry. I
Yeah.
wanted to be very intentional about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for writing such a thought-provoking article. I wonder what have been some reactions that you have gotten from people in response to reading the article, and I imagine that for me and for others, it's like, oh yeah, we definitely need to do more to help raise visibility and representation.
Well, I've definitely been told that, there are other fundraising professionals that would like to see other organizations open up, give the space to other underrepresented professionals in the industry. I think that there's, Latinx fundraising professionals that don't feel represented. I personally take the responsibility to volunteer in, let's say, DEI roles or be part of meetings that APRA hold regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, just to allow other professionals in my industry see that there is space for them. So I think, there has to be more voices that take that responsibility or the initiative to say, hey, you belong in this space. It's not just about others taking the responsibility to show others that they belong here too.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I wonder, and I think as a Caucasian male, I sort of hesitate to make sure I'm getting this phrased correctly. Like I'm not looking for someone to tell me how to do the work, but I'm wondering how can I partner and
Yeah,
show underrepresented communities that they belong. So like putting on my APRA volunteer hat, um, I would love to have conversations. I'm on the APRA International Board right now. How can I be a more strategic ally partner in
yeah, of course.
such as yours?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I'm happy to chat offline about that. I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but yeah, I think what you've talked about volunteering on DEI committees and such is a really necessary and important step.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a good way to start and open up the conversation. But I think, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes dedication, and it also takes courage. And sometimes, you know, you feel the weight, and sometimes you don't want to feel that. You want the rest of the community or the fundraising community to understand that fine, you really don't come from an underrepresented group, but you can take the initiative to um, bring others who want to be allies in the industry as well.
Yes, absolutely. Great point. I look forward to talking more and developing some ideas with you with APRA.
Oh, thank you, Tim.
Yeah. For our last question here, I oftentimes draw quotes from thought leaders in entertainment or academia and elsewhere in the world. And I came across this quote quite a long time ago. I have a master file of about 200 questions, and as I put together the agenda for each guest, I looked through that master file of documents and quotes, and this one just stuck out to me as something I thought I would like to ask you about and just reflect on it. So it's a quote from a former Formula One race car driver named Alex Diaz Ribeiro. He once remarked, quote, "Unhappy is he or she who depends on success itself or success alone to be happy." And this was quoted in social scientist Arthur Brooks' article in Atlantic, "Success Addicts Choose Being Special Over Being Happy." And what leads to more lasting fulfillment is ideally choosing to be happy versus being successful. So I'd love to get your thoughts about, what brings happiness to you, Carolyn, and anything you'd like to share along those lines.
Well, for me, happiness means balance.
Mhm.
I love the work that I do. I think it's very fundamental. But one thing that I've learned over the years is that it's important to have a life outside of fundraising. In our profession, I think that there's always another article to read, so much information to be consuming, one challenge to be solving in the nonprofit world, and all the news that's being fed to you in your feed. It can feel overwhelming at times. And with so much information to be absorbed all at once. But I've learned that investing my time in other parts of my life doesn't take away from my effectiveness and as a professional, and it actually strengthens it. I've realized that for me, happiness comes from looking beyond my career and making space for other parts of my life. So for me, happiness is running. I'm a runner. I'm a marathoner.
Oh, awesome.
I marathon. Yeah. Hopefully next year it'll be my 5th marathon that I'll be running.
Awesome.
Let's see. Yeah. So immersing myself also in different cultures, traveling, just detaches my mind from a lot of the complex issues that the fundraising world can bring into your life.
Sure.
So that keeps me grounded and reminds me that while fundraising is an important part of who I am, it isn't all of who I am. So that's very important to be reminded. And I won't end this conversation without mentioning my everyday joy, which is my dog, Boomer. No matter what kind of day you've had, dogs have a very special day of bringing you back to the present moment and reminding you of the simple things in life. So very, very appreciative of him.
That's awesome. Shout out to Boomer. That's great. Is there a particular country you have yet to travel to that would be like your ultimate place to go, or?
Yeah, I would say the Far East. It's been on my bucket list forever. Like Thailand, it's one of those places that I've been wanting to die to visit.
Yeah.
I've done my fair share of traveling in the Middle East region and part of Africa too. So, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Carolyn, thank you for a really enjoyable and thoughtful conversation. I've been honored to talk with you today and happy to cheer you on in the work you do for Somos El Poder and Armando Zumaya, who was also a previous People in Fundraising guest. And look forward to learning about your conference in Providence with Somos El Poder as well, as you shared on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to change the narrative about the fundraising industry in general or as a profession. So very appreciative of this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Carolyn. I'm happy to give space for people like you to bring up these critical topics and for me to add my voice to them as well. So thank you for doing so today.
Thank you
And
so much.
yes, and for our audience, you'll be able to find Carolyn Vasquez's conversation on the various platforms that you have become accustomed to. tuning in for. So Carolyn's conversation will be on YouTube. The audio file will be on Podbean and Spotify. And thanks to my 100th guest, Luis Diaz of WISE and the Donor Participation Project. He is sponsoring my website, peopleinfundraising.wordifysites.com. So all those channels will be where you can find Carolyn's interview airing later this summer. And I look forward to staying in touch with you, Carolyn, and I wish you a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Sam. Likewise.
Thank you.